I find this with recall. It's like my dog's recall is great in my backyard, but as soon as I add 3 more dogs, he doesn't listen.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's something in between your backyard and 3 dogs that we work towards, right? And we build that ladder. Hey guys, welcome back. Everyone's favorite podcast, Unleashed and Uncensored. We have our special guest, Rod Petrovic from Viking K9 here. Part 2, he is not wearing pants at this point in time. It's been a good day, drinks are had, and he's standing up.
Ranger panties.
Yeah, for the win. And Ranger panties with no underwear, I might add. So
Obviously.
great support though. Yeah.
Oh, way.
Oh, wait. So, okay. So on this episode of part 2, first half, we discussed Rod's career, how he got into dogs, kind of what led him through his career, his different experiences, the things that made him the total package that he is today. Speaking of package. And part 2 today, we're going to focus on working dog philosophies with a bit of genetics as well. So we're going to start with genetics, Rod. So what I want to ask you is, over your time starting from the Hill all the way into Durham and now with the other police agencies that you work with, how has your view on genetics changed, if at all? And how do you take that into account with your training?
So I'm actually fairly lucky. I've got to run the full gamut now. So at Dwyer Hill, like I said before, Brad tried that puppy program. We saw, we pay, I think it was $10,000 per puppy. So 50 grand, none of them worked out. And that's going off of, pedigree, genetics. This is the best bitch. This is the best sire. Okay, let's have them mate. They do it. We pick the, pick of the litter. Tried that, and not just from one breeder, from multiple breeders. I remember when me and Steve Kaywin picked up all 5 of them. We definitely tried it. And then I was of the same opinion. I'm like, fuck, there's such a high failure rate within dogs, and you could have a great male and a great female and they just don't produce. And then I wanted to try it again. So I talked to Black Kraken Kennels, Jamie over there, and then Fallen Star Bloodlines. Had a really, really good Mal. And in my opinion, going forward, I think the Mal Shepherd Cross is going to be the new thing. We did a poor job with life cycle management of Shepherd genetics, where we got the gene pool kind of shallow, I think. If you look at the RCMP breeding program, I think they'd agree now that they have issues because of shallow breeding. So much so that they went out of their own program to go to the OPP for tick dogs.
Well, yes, absolutely. Finally, with enough pressure. But that's another thing. I've been able to work with like a couple agencies like yourself. And one of the things I found is, through no fault of, this is not fault of the handlers at all. But they're dogs, man. I found that they train the test. They train the test to pass. Once they pass, the problem is there's no one to support them on the other end. So you have these guys who come in from fucking northern BC, northern Alberta, wherever, Tuktoyaktuk, and they get their dog, and then they go back and their dog passes this thing, and now they're left alone to their own devices, which, if you have a super switched on handler or someone who, is super involved, okay, maybe that's okay, but that really sets them up, right? And these dogs start to exhibit behaviors, impulse control issues, coming up the fucking line because the dog is not allowed to do what it wants to do. But you have to wonder why. Why is the dog? Well, because it's not communicated properly. He's getting corrected all the time. He's getting that. I found for police, the pop on the collar before every command. I'm just like, if I was that fucking dog, I'd come up the leash too. You know what I mean? So
you can't win.
No, the lack of communication, exactly. And if you don't give the dog a clear a path to success, I mean, of course they're going to get frustrated, right? So,
but the problem is, when you look at courses, we shrink courses down more and more and more. And with a police course, maybe you get 3 months. I think a good example was Brockville. Dan, he tried really hard, got their canine program started back up, went on a 3-week course and got a dual purpose dog.
Wow.
A 3-week course. And that dog, you don't know what you don't know. So to Dan's defense, he tried his best. And then he ended up coming down to us in Durham, and he got so much better. But because Dan had an understanding, and Dan had issues going through it, so he didn't have anyone to decoy for him because he didn't have any past handlers, any future handlers. They weren't running decoy courses. And especially in policing, much like in the military, go throw on the suit and then the dog's going to bite you. There was no marking. There was none of this stuff. And so because Dan was a little bit isolated, he started doing just detection work. And I remember he came up to us, and Mike Nesbitt was down actually training with us that week, and he sends his dog up. Mike's in a room, supposed to be a bark indication, and his dog just searches for drugs. Wouldn't even switch to man. And we sent him on a man search. And you can see that. And then he had some issues later on with even getting the dog out of the car. The dog came up to leash shed a few times, and he's not the only one. Still to this day, today actually, a handler in the GTA was injured when their dog, and she's in the hospital right now because the dog came up to leash at her. Now, we have to ask ourselves, is that, I believe that's a training problem. That's a trainer's problem because we didn't teach our handlers well enough to recognize signs of certain things. And unfortunately, I do think DEI has kind of wrecked everything in policing. Now, don't get me wrong. Are there good female handlers out there? Yes. I'm pushing for a female handler right now in my local police service. She works for me. She trains with me. There's one standard, though. So you're not getting this because you're a woman. And some places do that. And it was systemic for a long time. And we actually degrade the good women and minorities that get into these things because then they say, oh, they only got it because they're a girl. There are some really solid female handlers. Like Swirl's a great hand. Don't get me wrong. You know, when Cass gets in, she's going to be a great handler. She wants to be there. She tries really hard. She's doing everything. But again, there's one standard. And we don't set them up because historically, when we would teach courses,
there's lots of really stupid male handlers. I promise you.
There's definitely one that I would say, you should not do. You should take up knitting. But you know, Christmas sometimes we can't control that. So don't get me wrong there. But we brought in people that don't have enough experience, and experience does matter no matter what anyone says. It's the fuck ups that I've made through the years and the fuck ups that you made. That's how we learn a lot. And, you know,
and you need to make them. You do. Like
100%.
I agree. Brad, that's one of Brad's big things is his thing isn't look what I can do. It's look at all the fuck ups I've done. And I love that mindset. And that's something that I've always carried with me into training. I say, like, in terms of the experiences, it's great. I got to do all these things, but you should see how many mistakes I made, how many the things that I learned making these mistakes. And that's so important, right?
And we have to admit that. Like, I don't know everything, and I tell everyone that. And the moment that I think I know everything is probably when I should stop. Because no dog is exactly the same. We have training practices and methods, and they don't exactly fit every single dog. And if we try and force that fucking round peg through a square hole, just like what happened in the hill, they want to do this, they couldn't explain it, and then you get follow-on handlers that don't know why we're doing things. And the why is very important. And if you can solve the why, especially when you're by yourself and you understood the basic fundamentals of your training program, you'll be better off by yourself. But a lot of trainers themselves don't understand why, and so they don't explain it. Historically, especially in policing, it was do this. Why? Because that's how we've always done it. Now just fucking go and do it. We started doing building searches outside. Building interior. We're going to teach interior building searches outside. Okay, how does that make sense?
That makes less sense than doing recall exercises with a prong on a flexi or a long leash.
We should do that. But that's how it was. And things didn't change because, you know, especially in police and in the military, the same point. I'm not saying Brad did this at all, but, you know, they just shoved it down your throat. And because they didn't understand or they were insecure, they never sought outside help. And especially in policing, if we only stay within our small bubble and we never leave, we never find out we're wrong, or we never find out we're not the best. And I like to instill into the guys. So in Durham region, I think the King brothers were two of the hardest working handlers out there. Some people, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Some people said they were assholes. Some people say I'm an asshole. There's probably more people that say I'm an asshole than that I'm good, but I could get dogs to sit. So, the problem is sometimes you have to be an asshole. Those guys would give back hundreds of hours of time, over 100 hours a year in time off to go and work their dogs. If you want to be the best, it has to come to the forefront of your life. And you have to be willing to make mistakes and admit you're wrong. And those guys were, they both ran 2 dogs. And on their second dog, I remember we got into it about another dog and they said, well, I've been doing this a long fucking time and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. And then they come back later and they're like, we're glad we listened to you. And not to toot my own horn, but they had some of the best dogs that I had ever seen up until that time. And that's the goal, is to make them the best. And we sometimes don't see that. We get guys that want to wear the t-shirt and love that, you get your own cruiser, you don't have to do domestic calls anymore. You get a lot of perks, but they don't actually want to go and crush bad guys. And so they don't care how good their dog is. And that's the worst part. You should want to be the best. When I was there with Steph and GF, it was a competition constantly.
Yep.
As it should be. Yep.
No, I agree. Just moving back to genetics real quick, and you talked about Black Kraken and kind of their what they're doing in their program. So talk to me about how your views have changed as it relates to genetics, and the thoughts as you move between different agencies and programs and capabilities with genetics.
And so I'm still a little 50-50 on this. And I know that Jamie and especially Dr. Steph, who are the 2 owners of Black Kraken, she's an actual doctor.
Yeah, she's awesome, a really nice person.
Yeah. Might disagree with me. I'm still 50-50. I've seen 2 really good dogs produce shit dogs, and I've seen mediocre dogs produce great dogs. Now, what is going to give you your highest likelihood to produce a good product? Probably 2 good dogs. If you get like fucking Jennifer Aniston and like Brad Pitt fucking, they're probably going to produce a hot chick or like a baby or something, whatever. So when we did this, I had worked, so Rex was I think he was the father of Freddie and Jack and Storm. So I had worked Rex and Rex's dad. Amazing dogs. Grip-wise, amazing dogs. Super stable. I think the original, I think it was right, and I'm probably getting the names up and they'll come at me later. But he reminded me a lot of Blade. So like the first dog I got to work with at the Hill, like an old Malinois and just pure power. And when he bit you, I remember working that dog for the first time in a suit, and I swear he was like 10 or 11, like an old dog. He hammered still and grip, like full grip. And now when we look at what we did going forward, when we look at especially Jack's genetic grip pressure, huge. I don't know, he must have ate one of the other puppies in the womb because he's fucking a third bigger than everyone else. But when you look at Freddie, Jack, Storm, Baby, I think that we had a really good result. And to get 3 working dogs out of a litter of, I think it was 8 or 9, is huge numbers. And we probably could have got more of the males. Looking back, they sold some of them. And I think we all kind of regret that, because I tried to buy one back and they were like 30 grand. I'm like, oh, I'll just go fuck myself then. But really good dogs. And now we look at them on the road and how just enhanced they are. They're just over, they start on the road at maybe 1.5 years. And a dog at 1.5 years should just be, being tested, not be on the road. So did they take a big risk? However, genetically, these dogs are stable, meaning that they can go from biting someone for real and then immediately go and track someone else, or immediately go around the attack guys, or immediately switch behaviors. And that's a huge thing. Yeah. And it's clarity, but it's at such a level where it's almost easy. Now, I don't know. So I started with Freddie at 9 weeks old, and Storm was the same way. She was with Cass up here with me, and it was track or die. So these dogs never get fed from a bowl. You work for every piece of food, just like people. We work for every dollar we earn. I'm probably going to earn 24 cents for showing off my legs. No big deal. I squat. But I think, was that genetics? Yeah, it has to be part of it. I got into it on the line because I'm retired and don't care with a guy, and he's saying you shouldn't have to put food. So I do food tracks to start the dogs on tracking. I start them at like 9 weeks old. So just the little things. And he's like, well, you shouldn't have to put food down because then they're just going to look for food. And I'm like, well, I got 3 dogs on the road right now that last week just tracked 4 bad guys and bit them. And it was like an unknown start. They had told us the wrong direction to travel. Yeah. The guy's handler did an amazing job. And the huge thing is trust your dog. So Freddie's last 2 tracks were 100% trust your dog. And I couldn't believe it. And that handler says, I know if I can get Freddie to the odor, he will get me there. Yeah. I couldn't be more impressed with that.
And that's, you know, I love that, just that aspect, that whole comment made from the start, well, you shouldn't have to do that. Well, so what? If I do and it works, what does it matter? No matter what I do, as long as it works, why do you give a fuck? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Every time you add something, at some point you must remove it. Sure.
Exactly.
But if you need to use it. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Especially if for improved clarity, right? That's why?
Let's look at the basic psychology of it. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs says food, air, water, shelter. If I say to Freddie, I'm going to start, you're never going to get fed from, well, you have to find all your food. Okay, so now we're tapping into their brain and we're building synapses to say, I have to use my nose to find food or I'm going to die.
Yeah,
so whether that be
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Whether that be a track or an area search from 9 weeks old. And we make it easy at the start. Obviously, you know, we control the environment, we control the size of the environment, you know, he'll get success. And then it gets harder and harder and harder. Every time he starts doing well, it just gets harder. So when you look at Freddie at 5 months old is doing a 1.5 kilometer track with road crossings, all this stuff, no food. And he's doing all that at 5 months old. There's dogs that are 2 years old that are on the road that can't track 3 feet. But, you know, is it genetics? I think part of it, obviously. Is it how we raise them? Obviously part of it. And you can see the difference between how, especially when we look at the same litter. And I was very fortunate that I got to work with the 4 police prospects and see how they were training and kind of guide their training as we went along for the first year and a half. And there's definitely some things I would change, but there's definitely a lot that I would stay the same as for the basics. And this next litter that we do, it'll be the same bitch, the same sire, so we should have the same genetics. And maybe one works out, maybe none.
Yeah, and that's, you know, the whole nature versus nurture thing, right? We talk about kids in that aspect too, children and dogs. And I agree, man. Like you could run the same dog, the same 2 dogs breeding, you know, 5 litters, and there's just no way that you're going to get the exact same.
Lightning doesn't strike twice.
All the same way. It's just not going to happen, right? So it is.
But
it is interesting. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
But I honestly think that's, having done it, you know, seen it with Brad and seen it myself now and producing them. It's just a hope. And so last year, 3 different litters, none of them took, whether it be manual or artificial insemination. No, okay, so we're fucked this year. But, you know, the next litter that we do with the same bitch and the same sire, we hope for the same result. I can't say with any certainty that it's going to happen. I can't even say that they'll have puppies.
Yeah. So the last thing
I know they produce some great ones.
Yeah, no, it's true. And the last thing I want to touch on genetics is like how it relates to what type of program you're running and the capabilities, right? So
definitely.
What I find is, so like on the military side, right? Say at the soft level, so the tier 1 level, you know, you need a dog that has a high clarity, like a good genetics, calm, neutral, right? All these different aspects that we look for. But if you get the genetics, that's great. But if you don't have a way of communicating them, it might be more forgiving. That's the problem, is you can get away with it. Whereas if you take a dog who is still up there a bit, you know, gets amped, gets all the stuff, but I have a clarity package installed in that dog. They understand how and why things are doing the way what we're asking. You know, you're gonna get the same package, right? Like, and that's the thing. And
I definitely think we have dogs that are only ever going to be a 3 out of 10.
Yep.
And, you know, we have dogs that could be the 10 out of 10, like Freddie, because he's the best dog. But if it's up to us to get them there. And sometimes natural genetics will help them a little bit. But if we, like you said, if we can't provide clarity, they're never going to get to that 7 out of 10. And they might only ever be a 4 out of 10 because that's where our training, our knowledge of training and our limits take us to.
Yeah. Are you telling me we're not all equal? I don't believe you.
Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of people that aren't equal.
Yeah, no,
there's a lot of dogs that aren't equal.
Did you just point to one of yours?
Yes. He's got Addison's disease now and has just like, I'm not working anymore. Like, great. Bruce Power needs you.
Yeah, Bruce, I got a contract. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go, Boots. Come on.
Okay, so moving on, when we look at philosophies for training on the working dog side. So we talked earlier in part 1 regarding, seminar types, problem solving. Everyone likes to refer to everything as problem solving. I have my dog that does this. How do I fix it? My out, my recall, my call off, all these different things. And the first thing I say, like dog reactivity, everything for working dog side, everything I say is, well, do you have a communication system? What is it? And I want to see how it's being implemented. So let me start off with no stimulus and just do XYZ for me, right? And then ramp it up slowly and let's see where the fail points are and let's see how you respond to the fail points. And then does the dog get more amped because we're just fucking tugging up the line, right? Oh, you see, my dog ate my arm. He's not understanding. Well, yeah, you're being an asshole to him, right? And I find, when I did this to cops too, and Vancouver was great for this, I put e-collars on the cops' arms and I took away their e-collars, put it on there, and I made them only use leash communication and communicate with their voice and leash and their body language, right? Because dogs literally are the best at reading body language, right? And I started correcting the handlers when something wasn't clear to the dogs. And it's funny how we're so quick to learn and, the handlers would change their tune. Okay, that's you understanding at a high level. Look how many times I just corrected you for what your inability is to communicate to him, right? And I just find that everything needs to start with communication, and we don't need to look at isolated behaviors as problem sets. We need to look at what is the overall package. And I find that this is a big problem in policing because everyone trains the behavior. Well, I don't care about the behavior. I need X before Y and Z, right? And I find that's one of the biggest struggles. And you see it in pet dogs big time, but on the working dog side, I would say it's even more prevalent because everyone is trying to train that behavior.
Yeah.
My dog's getting excited when they see somebody that looks like a bite suit walk by and starts tagging everyone. Well, okay, well. Have you shown him that that's not okay? Have you taught him that's not, like, have we reinforced these other issues? Have we done it clearly? Have we rewarded him? Everything is not punishment, right? I'm speaking about the 4 quadrants of operant conditioning, like I'm all about a good punishment, adding properly timed, immediate, impressionable and inescapable punishment is amazing.
Identifiable. Like there's a 4th eye now.
Identifiable. Well, it's true though. Clarity, right? So like, it's the thing is we're so quick to add that, and sometimes not quick enough to back off and actually build a mindset, a clarity before we go back into a problem set. And that's how I find we go down those rabbit holes of just punishment. And it's not fair to. I call that we joke, but it's like the definition of insanity, right? So it's doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So I don't know. That's my big thing with problem sets and communication.
I think with that, it has a lot to do with anthropomorphism, where we humanize dogs. And so we talk to, and how many times have you fucking caught yourself doing that? Why the fuck don't you? I just fucking told you 3 times. All you have to do is go over there and smell the drugs. And then it pisses off because we're talking in English, and I hate to tell you, but dogs don't fucking speak English.
Yeah,
dogs are dumb and they eat their own shit. So
I say that
we say this
literally
stuff
to every client.
Yeah, they are. I put it on a mug. I sell it on the line by K9Canada.com. But we have to think about that, and a lot of the times, how pissed off you get because we haven't generalized it enough. So first thing we always control is the environment, and so. Whether we're doing capping with a decoy or whatever it is, I like to approximate. And if we just jump right to fucking butt sex, like, you can't do that with some dogs. We need to understand their thresholds.
You shouldn't do that with any dogs.
Oh, yeah. Right? That's how you get them to sit when they won't sit on detection.
Oh,
but that was a Brad Gillespie thing. That Brad told me that. That's how.
Yeah.
That's how
don't
Brad
put
does
this
it.
on Brad. Fuck. Yeah.
But
no, it's true. It's true. The basics have to be done, right?
Yeah,
and that's a major misunderstanding that I see. We just train behaviors and not what have the dog actually understand what gets him rewarded, what gets him punished. Start there. Always start there.
Yeah, you know? Solution first is a big thing. Yeah. So we need. Not enough times do we have our end state and we work back. What do you want? Okay, so I want a dog that's not going to react around a bite suit. Okay, how do we get there? So in my opinion, we need an end state. Why are we doing this? This is why we're doing this. How are we going to approach it? This is how we're going to approach it. And sometimes we can't see the forest through the trees because we're reacting to everything that's happening in the moment. But sometimes we don't understand why we're doing it. And again, clarity, why we're doing it. So, we have guys that go on their detection course, guys that just got off their GP course. Should the dogs have obedience? Obviously, yes. Do we want to punish a dog when he's pulling forward and excited to get into a new behavior? So a new behavior being detection. I go and smell BSDs, I go and smell cans, whatever it may be. Should we be fucking cranking on him the whole way while he gets into the room? And we have to ask ourselves, what do we want to work right now? Is it obedience, or are we teaching this new skill and now he's going to learn that I get fucking cranked on and then I go and do detection? Now, is that a separate issue? Yeah, but treat them like two issues. If you want to do capping and obedience, do capping and obedience. Don't do capping and obedience and then get to that part. Like we can worry about that later. Horsepower before brakes, when we look at it now, so I have a 6-month-old and a 5-month-old. My 6-month-old shepherd, I know, is, the drug dog. He's been going through course for the last couple of weeks every day. And this goes back to training and genetics and stuff like that. Every day he only gets paid. So he only gets fed through finding drugs every day. Every single day we go out probably 6 times a day. We do a couple minute surges to keep it interesting. And that's the only time he gets fed. If you suck, you don't eat because you'll definitely do better later on.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole concept in negative punishment, right? So, and that's a very underutilized thing too, I find. So what would you say in your experience working with police agencies right now, what would you say the most utilized quadrant of the operant conditioning model is right now? Would you say positive punishment?
Positive punishment, bud.
Yeah.
And we forget compulsion. We forget negative punishment. Like we forget that compulsion part. And in my opinion, compulsion should be trained before punishment. So they need to know, one, the solution and how to shut off the compulsion, because when we punish them later on, they need to know why they did it. So again, identifiable. And it's just like a dog with a poor heel. Okay, well, we've accepted a dog. I like the dogs at their nose at the seam of my pants. You can't see the seam of my pants because I have Ranger panties on, pal. And so when I recall Boots knows he'll come through the air like a fucking flying Malinois. He spins in the air and he puts his nose kind of right on the seam of my pants where my pocket is. That's where I pig. In the beginning, obviously, when we were doing recalls, it's left. He comes over and he gets into my quadrant and we pay indirect. Okay.
Sure.
We do that. We do the same thing with kind of police dogs. In my opinion, with police dogs, everything good should happen out and away from the handler, especially in the beginning. So we don't teach obedience till the end. I don't think obedience kills drive by any means, but we would rather have every solution in their Rolodex be to move away from the handler. So even when they're getting paid indirect with food, they come up, they do something good, whether it be a touch stick, a place board, blah, blah, blah. They come up, pay. Is there a time for direct reward? Yes, we should ebb and flow with that. However, I like to use a lot of indirect reward because that tells me when the dog's moving away from his reward to get the reward, he really understands the thing.
Yeah.
We obviously lure first.
Yeah, I think everything starts, or for me, everything starts direct and then moves towards indirect. That's the way I've done it. I found good success with the dogs understanding what's being asked, but that's how you generalize it and actually know they understand versus just you luring everything into position, right? Having them actually truly understand the behavior, whatever that is, a down in motion or a recall, a heel, whatever, right? And like you said, focus on picking trying not to do 3 things at once. Focus on making something better, which is important. Is it the capping? Is it the new capability? Whatever it is, right? So time out from our sponsors, Jack Daniel. We'd like to thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jack Daniels.
Thank you. Yeah. That's number 6 for anyone who's counting.
Thank you, Jesus. Yeah. And I ran out of mix, so this is about to get awesome.
We're straight. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm just getting word from our producer that we're going to have to...
from our censors. Just word from our censors.
Gonna have to
Rod's about to get really wicked.
So if we leave abruptly, we apologize. So okay, hold on. Before we get on to back to tie hookers, I'm going to bring us back online here.
Yeah.
So on the police side, we talked about communication being a major non-priority.
It's an issue.
I find it needs to be a priority. Yeah,
it's not taught.
But that's the issue. All these dogs are pre-trained. These guys get these dogs, but they're never actually taught how they were taught, right? And that's what I find is, okay, my dog is not doing X. I got to punish him because he should know. Versus you just fucking actually building a relationship with your dog and building a proper communication so they understand what happens at the Y junction, right? And that's one of the biggest things I find. Everyone wants to indirectly identify a problem set with a behavior instead of understanding as to why this led to the, like, don't tell me that the first signs of there was no signs before that dog coming up the leash, because
here's a good example.
Yeah.
Last year at Napich, I'm down there, I'm doing my stand thing, and this girl comes up to me and she goes, I've gone to 4 other master trainers to get my dog to out. And I said, they all did the exact same thing, didn't they? And she's like, yep. And it didn't work, did it? Yeah, I said, they first went to prong collar and they fucking smashed the dog to come off and he didn't come off. Yep, no, he didn't come off. And then they went to e-collar and they cranked that up and he didn't come off. Yep. And I said, okay, perfect. Come with me. And the first thing I asked her was, will your dog out a toy? Well, no. Is he going to out a man then? Probably not. So, like you said, identifying those problems, we don't go all the way back to where we should start, which is, we started on a toy. We did 2 toys, whatever, juke back and forth. And then we went to so I find that we should go to a suit first and take them on an inside bite, because the dogs, when they're hanging, they're more likely to come off. And again, it's a thing where I'm an active decoy. I go still, the other decoy activates, and we use 2 decoys, just like we use 2 jutes. And then we can do it from a sleeve. And then we add, obviously, duration, distraction.
It's a training ladder. You're helping the dog succeed. That's all you're doing. Yeah.
But again, the communication of 2 jutes, and like, now and I remember, we always test so we know what to train. Dog gets on the first bite so I can see what I'm dealing with. I grabbed the leash and started to compulse a bit, and that dog went and just drove in.
Yeah. Think of the anxiety the dog is experiencing, the anxiousness in that moment. Like, it was probably otherworldly to the amount of compulsion it's probably received, right? And that's the problem, is we're so quick to jump down the dog's throat for things, but not quick to take the extra week to working out at lower stimulus levels and help the dog understand.
To make sure they understand.
Right? Man, it's, I find this with recall. It's like, my dog's recall is great in my backyard, but as soon as I add 3 more dogs, he doesn't listen. Well, maybe there's something in between your backyard and 3 dogs that we work towards, right? And we build that ladder. But I wanted to touch on something you talked about regarding to the e-collar, because this is definitely something that we do a ton of. Day one in our program, most of the times at the consult, depending on where the dog's at, but definitely first session, I'm putting an e-collar on that dog. And people instantly, I would get, well, why am I doing that? It's not about punishment. It's about the negative reinforcement aspect of the operant conditioning model that people don't understand. Is I'm actually going to speed up my time so much faster, my training time so much quicker, but in a way, not just through compulsion, actually teaching the dog, right? And the dog is going to get so many more rewards because of it, because I'm guiding, shaping, luring, teaching them how to do these tasks, whatever we go to place, come, sit, down, whatever, paw, it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, a behavior is a behavior. Spin. The behavior is the behavior. Whatever you have, if you have it somewhat reliable and repeatable, most people have a sit down, right? Then start guiding with a leash and help the dog understand with negative reinforcement, right? And that's the thing, is a lot of people don't understand how important pressure is to a dog. Everyone looks to escape pressure, right? Everyone. If I start
pressure
walking
and
towards,
understanding how to turn pressure off.
Yes, they need to know how to do that. They're a creature just like us. If I start to walk up on someone and I'm getting uncomfortably close to them, I'd
probably kiss you.
Pressure. Yeah, you probably would. We'd start to put pressure on people. Their immediate is to back off, right? Is to look for a way to escape. It's the same with dogs. We can use body language for dogs to add pressure. I can use
spatial
tools
pressure.
to add pressure.
Yeah, huge.
Spatial pressure is huge, right? And people don't understand this. People don't understand how the environment impacts these dogs. And from a working dog side, how we can, you see where the dogs are perfect in training, and then, as soon as they get out of the police car with the lights going and they have to do this for the first time, well, why wasn't there an in-between, But it was always great on my bite table or always in my open field tracks. Did we ever in training bring the lights on and everyone out of the car just to do like quick some capping and reward and back in? You know what I mean? If the dog,
so one thing
thinks that, I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
Sorry, one thing I can tell you that we do in London. So I have 2 PA systems that I use here. They have a single purpose bomb dog out there. He didn't like that loud music was coming on. So the dogs that live with me, so the puppies again, I have tinnitus, so I always have to have something on in the background. So even in our training room, there's music or whatever, there's always something on. Plus, I knew that they had to get used to loud noises, so we play the PA system. We should be doing that in our training because, again, operations drives training. And if we have an issue where loud noises, okay, now we can control the level. So Durham Region was building the new dog kennels. They're building a whole new building. Me and Jeff Burns get involved, and I asked for a few things. Now, again, they shouldn't put me around civilian women, especially ones that are like at least a 4 and above, because whatever. So I said to her, okay, I need a stripper pole, and I need the ability to turn down the lights, and I need a full like surround sound system in that room. She's like, what the fuck, Rod? Like, this is not even a cop, just a person that's supposed to be helping design the thing. And I said, the stripper pole and the fucking disco ball are needed. Like, we need that. It's for dog training. And same thing with the surround sound system. And she's like, I'm not, and like, this is in official emails, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, and she's like, no, we're not putting that into the statement, whatever, the SOR, statement of requirement. And I'm like, no, we actually need that. And she's like, okay, you have to explain it now. And I said, we need the stripper pole to do back ties for the dogs for a combat table. I need to be able to dim the lights and turn on flashers to expose the dogs, because this was in our training room. And I need the surround sound system so that I can add gunshots and other stuff at low levels and distractors while the dog's in the training room. And she's like, well, fuck, that actually makes sense. Yeah. But when you say for stripper poles and fucking... disco balls and flashing lights.
Though. That's
no, but if she did it, she just went from a 4 to an 8.
No comment. Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah. After a full thing of Jack, maybe. Yeah.
That little guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely things. I think that. So now, this is going to piss some people off too. When we buy dogs from big places, so don't get me wrong, there's a lot of big kennels out there. Ricky down in Alabama has some great dogs. K2, has the clone dogs and some really good dogs. But Old Man Reaver out in California has some really good dogs. There's good dogs everywhere, don't get me wrong. However, when we look at the massive places that we go to buy dogs, Kenny, Ricky, any of those guys, they'll have 100 dogs at a time. How much do you think those dogs get worked? And to get in on your point from the last episode, when we test dogs, a lot of places won't let you take them out. They do it in their training area with the same decoy, with the same routine they do every day. So if we can't go out and environmentally test these dogs because they're a show dog essentially in the beginning, they have great grip work with that decoy, only using the sleeve. And when we look at camp, in that field, because they've never been stressed externally and we don't test their environmentals. For me, I started bringing Freddie to London at like 10 weeks old. And I was like, everyone's going to handle this dog. We're going to bring, Storm, Freddie, and Jack down. And they got exposed to everything. Everyone tracked with Freddie. And my goal was to make it so it doesn't matter if you're a good dog tracker or a bad dog tracker. That dog's independent. You just fucking hold on and he will get you there. And now that I see him growing older, and when I look at his progression through the months that I had him, I'm super proud of what we did there. So when we look at Jack, who maybe had less tracking time but more grip work, Jack's grip work's amazing. Like that dog, I pity the fool. Like, good luck if he bites you. He's got one of the hardest bites I've ever taken from any dog ever. And he's the only dog that I didn't take a dog armor bite from, because I was actually afraid he would break my arm. And I'm trying for that. Like, that is my goal.
One of the most compliant bites, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we go back to genetics and training, does it start young, like we talked about with the puppies, where everything has to be tracked? When they weren't tracking or they weren't doing an area search, I do what I call chicken feeding. So I'll just huck their food out into the grass and they have to find. But again, we're training their olfactory system. Is that come genetically that they'll look for food? I think at some point they're like, well, if I want to live, I have to do this. But then they also learn through building synapses. Is I've got the most success through using my nose. When we look at Freddie's first bite, it was awesome. Again, they kind of got away. A guy said they went that way over a fence. Turns out they didn't go over the fence. Freddie hooks them. And this is like hard surface tracking in an urban environment and like row housing. Over a fucking hedge. Good. Like, great grip work. 4 punctures. I was like the proudest dog dad ever, and I wasn't even there. But is that a genetic thing? So when we look at historically in policing, we had dogs that pulled, right? And genetically, so I had a sport dog here yesterday. We did a little bit of sleeve work, and the dog pulls, and I'm like, I wouldn't pay that. But when you look at sport, that's what they want. So historically, a lot of policing came from sport. And there's still people out there that say, I want my dog to huck a buck because it'll throw the guy off balance. But I want them to drive in. Now, why do we get them to drive in? I think that we've had good results with regards to the solution to the problem is drive in. We get the dog to drive in, stay on that first and final grip, and just every time the dog feels pressure, they just have to drive in and bite harder. Now we're getting less stitches, less injuries, and more compliance. We've had a guy give up to one of the King brothers' dogs. He bit him in the leg, rolled down a flight of stairs, took a bunch of punches in the head. And every time that guy punched the dog in the head, he just bit harder. How many dogs would just, run away? That goes back to also training. So when we put pressure on dogs, we give them a solution first. The solution is always going to be to drive in and bite harder. And that goes down to the very basics. When we start as a puppy, either on a flirt pole and then go to a jute or a bite pillow, we shouldn't be paying ever, since they're 9-10 weeks old, the huck-a-buck. They learn to drive in. And again, the solution of the problem is drive in on this. The solution of the problem is drive in on that. And we've started at 9 weeks now. Yeah.
No, it's true. Because anytime you're paying something, that's just going to be another option for the dog, right? So, and then it's one more thing you have to clean up, right? Whereas, you adding in luring or using whether it be a food or toy to achieve is another thing you need to remove, but you're using it to build a behavior versus you paying something that necessarily shouldn't be paid, because then you're confusing the dog. No, that's a big one. I find one of the most, circling back to the quadrants, obviously positive punishment is something that I find most police agencies are heavy on. And then on the underutilized side, obviously negative reinforcement. I find negative punishment, it's easy. Oh, the dog came off the sleeve, put him up. Okay, I got it. Yeah. But I find positive reinforcement is actually something that I find that a lot of agencies don't do a ton of. And
we forget about it.
And because, my dog's trained, I shouldn't have to do it anymore. Yep. Well, fuck, if only, you know what I mean?
So I talk to the guys about their heel,
good, right?
I talk to the guys about their heel, and why can't we mark yes continuously while the dog's in that? So yes is our stand behavior command, but we forget it. We say left, the dog lefts, and then we only focus on the negative. Oh, well, he forged a bit. Well, why didn't we tell him for the fucking 20 seconds before that yes, right now is what you're doing is what I want you to be doing. Keep doing it. And we continuously pay that behavior to get a bunch of stuff, whether it be through pets or food or a juke, we get this good behavior, but a lot of them just forget to do that. Like, why didn't you mark your dog yes for doing something good? Okay, down. Did we say we're doing a long down, which, you know, no one ever does because it's fucking boring. Or, you know, we start doing capping around other dogs. Let's just pay that our dog stayed in a down. So food is calming and toys are hectic. We can add in some food or some pets to bring down the drive, especially when we're adding higher level distractors.
Yeah, not just waiting for the dog to react to then correct it. That's what I agree. Yeah, there's a time and a place for that, and if you're at that level, then push to that. But honestly, the more time you can spend on teaching the dog that actually focusing on me is what gets you rewarded, that's gonna pay dividends in the long run. So taking the extra 3 weeks it does to do that, instead of just rushing to test your dog, I would say is one of the biggest things that we've changed about our training in terms of take the long road, especially with reactivity. Take the long road.
Huge.
There's no downfall to that, right? Your dog eventually just looks to you in those situations, and remember what you're paying him for. You know, not staring at the other dog, looking back at us, and how we create that without asking for it. That whole "look at me" command. I don't want to create a command. I'm going to shape that through marks. You know what I mean? That's so easy. That's so easy to shape.
I think our goal is to say as little as possible, because we want the solution to the problem is only really like 8 things in the dog's whole life. The solutions, all his solutions, his Rolodex should only probably be 8 things, like sit down, find drugs, track, bite, come out. Like there's not a cut. And when we add in more and we keep convoluting those things, and we should put pressure on and put them and push them and push them and push them. However, sometimes we push the handler or the trainer too far, and now we're getting much better. I think in the policing world, we are getting much better. I think that canine selection has come a long way, and it was always a crapshoot before, but I think they're also looking for a lot more now. So when you're looking for attributes that you can't get from everywhere, because historically people that sold dogs, they want a dog that's fucking crazy all the time. And sometimes, how many times have you got a call like, oh, I got a Malinois, I got a Shepherd in the kennel right now, he'd be great. And you get there and it's all defense aggression. So historically, that's how we used to train, is through defense aggression, not aggression, I'll say. And, you know, why do our dogs want to bite? Vice, you know, initially when a lot of dogs have their first engagement, they bite and come off because they're like, oh, fuck, that's real. 100% it happens, but our training methods and our dog selection have gotten a lot better. Handler selection, I think, has gotten worse. Dog selection has gotten better.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would, especially, you see, it takes a while to steer a ship, right? Especially a ship this big, like in terms of, you know, Canadian policing, Canadian K9 show, all that type of stuff. And, but you see it, a lot of the work that Brad's doing with the CPCAs and everything you see it across different, watching it in Vancouver. I think Zach has done an amazing job out there at, really changing the way the handlers think, in terms of helping the handlers become their own little trainers. You know, I find that's
as
big.
They should be.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the thing is, you know, don't just correct your dog a bunch of times and then pass them off to the trainer. Understand what the issue is to begin with. Right. And that's, anyways, that's, I really like that conversation. I really like the communication aspects and how you can dial it up and dial it down with, you know, understanding distance, duration, distraction, working dogs, pet dogs, whatever it is, it all comes back to that. Like it really does. Whatever behavior you want to do, whatever your mission and state is to what you want in life. The one thing I will say is, as we wrap up here, is I'm going to bring you on in a little bit, and I want to do a problem set approach with you, and I just want to go back and forth with you for an hour, and we'll have each of us explain how we would address a problem set. And I'll actually ask I'll reach out on social media and I'll ask for questions as it relates to specific problem sets on the working dog side, and we'll take a few from the pet side as well. But just to how we would approach them from flash to bang. We'll talk communication, we'll do that, but how we would, if we already have all that, how we would then approach problem sets. I think that would be a very interesting, and then we could each give our own thoughts on that, and pick it apart as well. So that'll be something we'll bring you back on. Maybe you'll have pants on, maybe you won't, who knows? It's a party.
Maybe I won't have anything on.
Yeah.
You should see my tadas.
Oh, I'm getting the look from our producer right now. Yeah, looks as though he's saying.
Let's talk about our producer. His name's Big Juicy.
That's his stage name.
Yeah. Stage name.
Yeah. Awesome, Rod. So I want to thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate your time and the effort to put on shorts. So yeah,
thank you.
I hope there was some takeaway here today. I know on part one we focused on just who you are and your background and what led you to be the beautiful person that you are today. And then part two, leaning in, genetics, nurture versus nature. But the second part, focusing on, what we're seeing kind of around the working dog side and what seems to get forgotten as it comes to the basics and how handlers need to be their own trainers. And that's so important. That's what I care about. And I know that's what you do too, is giving them the tools to understand the behavior and not just look to punish it. So I want to thank you for your time today. I look forward to having you back on to talk problem sets. And I hope you have a good day.
You as well. Hair looks fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to look good for you. I knew you were coming on with no pants, so